we're way off the charts today. So, this morning we are going to have an interview, and Zebedee thought that we were having an interview with Zebedee, but we brought in some reinforcements just to help a little bit today. Zebedee was brought back to the United States to receive an honorary doctorate degree yesterday from Kentucky Christian University, and we also had a board meeting on Friday, so the timing of events brought everything together for us to be able to put this weekend together. As many of you know, we have had a partnership with Hippo Valley Christian Mission for many, many years, all the way back to 1956. And it's not often that we have an opportunity to meet so many folks that are involved with Hippo Valley Christian Mission. So I've asked them to come. We're just going to ask some questions, let you get a feel a little bit for the mission. I want you to understand a little bit about how it started. But to get started, let me just make some introductions, because as I've learned in Zimbabwe, introductions are very important. So immediately to my right is Dr. Zebedee Togarepi, who is the managing director in Zimbabwe of Hippo Valley Christian Mission. To his right is Dr. Daryl Pruitt, who is our vice chairman of the mission, and then to his right is Al Surhal, who you've met before. He is the executive director of Hippo Valley Christian Mission stateside. So the format here is pretty informal. I'm just going to ask a few questions that will kind of lead into some conversations so that you have a good feel of who Hippo Valley Christian Mission is and why we want to be continually partnered with them. So Daryl, I'd like to start with you. These folks don't know this, but it was actually your father, Dr. Dennis Pruitt, who met up with John Pemberton, and they partnered together to start Hippo Valley Christian Mission. So can you just take a minute, kind of tell us what brought these two men together? Why Zimbabwe? You know, how did all of this begin?
Thank you, Scott. It is really an honor to be up here. In 1973, John Mark and I would convoy up, and he would turn left at 89 at Hargett and come down here, and I would go up to Corinth Christian Church, where I preached there my last year in Kentucky Christian.
Oh, okay.
So it's my first time at the church here, and to see this wonderful congregation of people who've been so supportive of this work in Africa since the very beginning. And I was afraid you were going to ask me to sing. You handed me this thing. And
anybody can do better than me, I assure you.
I may have that record too, I don't know. But it is an honor to be here, and to many of you, I feel like I've known you because of John Mark's love for this church, and this church's love for the Pembertons and the work in Africa. It's astounding to go over to the Preachers Conference. We were there in February, and there were 3 people from Station Camp, Little Station Camp, Kentucky, right there in spreading the word of truth in this country so far away. So that was impressive. Brother Bill and Anthony and Scott, it was what a joy it was to meet you all, to see you there. But it really started at Kentucky Christian, where my dad had gone after World War II. He had been in the South Pacific and was on the GI Bill, and decided my mother wanted him to be a missionary in Africa. She always wanted to be a missionary in Africa, and she was of the Methodist congregation, and my dad was sort of neither here nor there, and they got together and they found the little Church of Christ in West Virginia to be what they believed. And so they went up to Kentucky Christian, and Dad, and that's where he met John Pemberton. My mother had pretty much put the screws on Dad about being a missionary, and they had a basketball camp in Hitchens, where Dad and John, Uncle John I call him, were there for a week for a basketball camp when they were in college. And that's where Uncle John wanted to be a missionary, but his Aunt Marge didn't. So you had my dad not really crazy about the idea, and Aunt Marge not crazy about the idea. And there it happened that the Lord used the spouses they decided then, Uncle John said, I'm going, whether you're going or not. And Dad said, I'm going. So that was really where it started on the basketball court at Hitchens High School. where the Kentucky Christian was using that basketball court for their team. And to the best of my recollection, that's the story that Dad gave me. Now, none of them are here to contradict me.
And how old were you at that time?
I wasn't around yet.
Oh, you weren't even there yet.
I was born in '49.
Okay.
So I was just a gleam in their eye.
All right, Zebedee. You come from a very large family. Some of us have large families. We may question that in a minute. A very large family. 24 brothers and sisters, I thought I heard you say yesterday. Father had 4 wives. What was it like growing up in a family that big, and when did your family start becoming followers of Jesus?
Well, yes, you are right that I grew up in a family of 24. That is, those I saw, not what I did not see.
Okay.
Like the dead, those who died before that, I don't know. But 1980, when we became independent, we were 24 children of one man, 10 girls and 14 boys. My mom was baptized before she married my father. So the Church of Christ, the Christian Church religion was already in my family. My father was also, but then back there, the Church of Christ did not allow polygamists in their ministry. So that automatically kicked my father out. But my mother continued to be a member of the Church of Christ. And also the school system we went to was Church of Christ. So we were forced as young people to be in Sunday school. If you didn't come to Sunday school on Monday, you would be punished.
You've been involved with Hippo Valley Christian Mission for a great number of years now. How did you first get involved, and what's kept you on board all of these years?
Well, as a young man who grew up in the territory where the Churches of Christ operated, I was part of the Church of Christ under Mashoko Mission. But to be directly involved with the Hippo Valley Christian Mission, this was 1978, when Central Africa Mission loaned me, after my training, they loaned me to Hippo Valley Christian Mission for 8 months. So after the assignment of 8 months, which started in 77 in July, up to 78, when I was done, of course, Central Africa Mission assigned me to be under John Pemberton's supervision, because John Pemberton had some knowledge and influence of this church I was sent to. So after completing the assignment, I came back to John to say goodbye. I am going back where I came from. And John offered to work with me then. He said, if you would like to work with me, I would like to work with you. So 1978, that's when I joined the Hippo Valley Christian Mission. But I have been one who could be loaned out and come back. I was like free to go and come back. John was not very stingy with me if somebody said, could we have him for a number of months? So I was on loan, come back, on loan, come back. But 1978 is when I joined the Hippo Valley Christian Mission as an employee.
And what keeps you here?
I mean,
with the mission, what keeps you involved? What keeps you from just saying, I'm tired, I'm done, I'm going home?
Well, when I decided to, 1970, when I decided to go to Bible college, I made one mistake, not mistake, but one decision somewhere along 1972. That's when I decided, well, I think this is not for me. I wanted to join the police. I went to the police depot, 1972. The guy who was the recruiting officer looked at me and he said, "You are too thin to be a policeman. Go eat." Go eat and develop the muscles, which I obeyed. I went and ate. And 1974, I came back. You might. So I came back 1974, really pumped up. I was going to join the police. Yes, I was accepted, but this is where I have developed a philosophy that God has a sense of humor. I was accepted, and that night God moved me closer to where I had left with it, which is the church. And the next day I went to help at this large building, and one of the missionaries who knew me came around and said, "Hey, where are you coming from?" And before I knew it, I was back into the fold. Never went back to the police. I preached, became the first student of Zimbabwe Christian College, 1981, and I've never looked back from that.
And that college is the same college that we just helped put a roof on here just not too long ago. So
that's the college I am proud of, to be the first graduate of there.
Al, can you tell us some of your history with the mission? Elaborate on some of the different roles within Hippo Valley Christian Mission.
Well, my history with the mission, it really goes way back. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, as did you and your father, John, and Cheryl, for that matter, I guess. But growing up in Northwest Indiana, I'd heard the Pemberton name, because John Pemberton and Marge were originally from Gary, which is kind of a sister town to Michigan City. But being at church camp and things like that, we'd always heard of the Pembertons. But when I became a student in 1986 at Kentucky Christian College, my wife Patty and I, we were non-traditional students ourselves. We had 2 children at the time. But I think it was 87 that I met the Togarepis. He and Retizo had come, sponsored by, I think, John Pemberton and Dr. Lusby, and they brought the 2 boys. They have 5 children, but they just brought the 2 young boys who were the same age as my son Chad at the time. And so I think the kids were playing together, and one day I saw Zebedee and his wife and boys walking through our yard going to Ralph's grocery store, and we started talking, and I think we had you over for ice cream or something. Anyway, we became friends back then. And so some years later, when I was preaching in Kokomo, he had gone back to Zimbabwe and then come back again to get his master's degree from Cincinnati. He was telling me about this, so I convinced my church in Kokomo that we needed to support this guy financially, and so we've been partners ever since then. And so my church supported him, and I think somewhere, maybe it was 97, Zebedee kept saying, "You need to come to Zimbabwe. You need to come to Zimbabwe." And
I've heard that same remark.
Yes, yes. And I gave in, and
it took 30 years to get there, but
so and then it was, I think maybe a year after that was when John Mark set up the Second Mile Board. It was a new board that replaced the old Central African Mission and all that. And so I was one of the first members of that board. So I served as a board member, and I helped do some fundraising for the children's orphan ministry that we began in 2000, I think it was. And then in the old man died in 2003, right? John Pemberton. John Mark died very young in 2005. And then 5 years to the day after that, Bob Pemberton died. And so the mission was without stateside representative. At the time, Zebedee couldn't get a visa to come back home, if you recall. It was 7 years almost before you were able to get back to the U.S. And so the board asked me at that time if I would come into that role. And so I've been serving since 2013 as the U.S. Director of the mission. Did that answer?
What about some of the other roles?
The other thing I was going to say is, at the time we had a very small board. There was just 3 or 4 of us. And since then, we've been able to really establish a strong U.S. board. We have combinations of preachers, missionary kids. We have 3 MKs, Daryl, Donna, and Dave. They all start with D. We have preachers who are also businessmen like Scott and technological geniuses like Scott. We have bankers. We have Tom Burbank, who's now emeritus with us, but he was the business manager at KCU. So that was deliberate. We wanted to get people on the board who would bring different perspectives. And so we have a very strong board now, a very active board. And then we have a system where we really don't have one person running the mission. Zebedee runs the mission in Zimbabwe, and I run the U.S. offices, and we both report to the board. And I think that's been a good system for accountability and stewardship and all that sort of thing. So that changed from the days of John Pemberton and then John Mark Pemberton, where they ran things over there, they ran things here, everywhere in between. So I think that's interesting that we've kind of evolved to that place.
One of the benefits of having a board of that nature is financial accountability, which we are very, very much on the up and up. We want to be honest. We want to be people of integrity. We want to make sure that all contributions are given and used for the work of spreading God's Word. And so, again, with the number of folks that Al has mentioned, there is complete and total financial accountability for all money that is collected and distributed for the mission. So, thank you, Al. Daryl, you just got back from Zimbabwe. You spent a couple of months over there. You kind of assessed the whole state of the mission. Can you tell us from your perspective, where do things stand with Hippo Valley Christian Mission, and what does the future look like as you see it going forward?
We were honored to be able to spend 10 weeks over there. We got back Friday of last week. So the jet lag is over, and I'm back to reality here. And Zebedee will be heading back over, and you just got over jet lag, so you're looking forward to it again. But of all the works that I can imagine, the dollars spent in Africa reach the most people the furthest. Agree? We see a lot of different projects and buildings that go into buildings and a lot of expenses. The Hippo Valley work is somewhat unique in that the gospel of Christ touches 17,000 students every week. Now, I don't know where else you can get that, but through the ministry, through Al's new approach with Living Proof, through and Zebedee's management of the teams there on the ground, we've got such wonderful people there, preachers and hard workers. Through the medical clinics, which is sort of where I come in, because I was in practice in dermatology here, and I really just retired from full-time practice last November. So at that time, Mary, my wife, and I dedicated our lives to the Lord's work and to mission work, which is where my heart has been, of course, my whole life. So we see the work there as the best outreach, and it is exciting. It is exciting to see. I had said, okay, we have 27 schools. I'm going to get to all 27 schools while I'm here. I think I got to 5. I mean, the roads, folks. I used to think that the road up to Irvine was crooked, but at least you can drive it. And you may, the bush roads are very, very interesting. Where if you get to the bottom of the gulch, you're not sure you're going to get up the other side of it, and that goes on for hours. And we So we got to the schools, the clinics we ran, vacation Bible schools, we had 2 of those. Just wonderful work, and the country is ripe for evangelism. There are many challenges in Africa, as there are here. You know, here we have the challenges that we see here are sometimes appear overwhelming, and in Africa it's the same way, but one thing we've learned is that God is in control, and I just want Him to use me and my wife and our mission to the maximum that we can do. But it's I see the opportunities there is really limitless. There are for every problem we have, there are so many new opportunities that the fields are so white in the harvest. It astounds us. We're planning. We were going to go over for 2 months or 3 months, and we ended up coming back for the board meeting. But we're already planning on going back in a couple more months to spend some more time there to look at some more areas. But this church is the support from this church, and little churches like this have been the solid foundation on which this work is reaching so many. So it's a blessing. Thank you.
Zebedee, Station Camp has been a very long time supporter. We've been involved with the Pemberton family, obviously, since back in the 50s, and then having the opportunity to meet you when I was in Bible college, and the relationship that we've established, and continuing to be involved with Hippo Valley Christian Mission. Can you just tell us a little bit about the impact of a little tiny church like Station Camp Christian Church being involved in helping support this mission? You know, sometimes you think, we're out in the country and we're 50 people plus or minus on a given Sunday. What kind of an impact can we have? I mean, can we really make a difference? Does it really matter? Is what we're doing mattering at all? Does it impact you? Does it help you? And can you just elaborate a little bit on that and tell us, why do we need to stay involved with the mission?
Well, number one, it reminds me of Isaiah chapter 6, when Isaiah was commissioned. Isaiah thought he was very clever in front of God. He says, yes, I will go. But when is it going to be over? He wanted to see the limit. When am I done if I go on this mission? God says, until everybody is gone from the face of the world. So Station Camp, you are in. You are in. I want to thank congregations like Station Camp for being, there. I also didn't know that apart from the money that you guys send to Hippo Valley Christian Mission, you also bought books to go to the Bible college. You have a multifaceted task, that is Hippo Valley, and then send books to the Bible college. Your ministry and influence is not only limited to Hippo Valley Christian Mission, because if you were to see the videos Bill and Anthony and Scott brought, maybe you did, you can see all these preachers receiving books, and these books are coming from Station Camp, a small congregation like this, doing all you can do to continue to evangelize. You still have a place in Africa and also in Hippo Valley Christian Mission. By the way, the Zimbabwe Christian College, which now seems to stand on its own, the birth of that college was John Pemberton and Poole, because it started as Mashoko Bible College at Mashoko, and then it moved to Fort Victoria, because Mashoko was starting high school. There was no space, so they gave it up to Fort Victoria, Dick Smith. and then from there it moved into Harare. So you can trace back to the Pembertons and Pruitt, the origin of Zimbabwe Christian College. And then with that, you can also trace it to yourselves, that you were part of the beginning of this Bible college by your continued support with John Pemberton in 1956. That's a long time. Some have been born and are old now, but ministry continues. So I'm appreciative of Station Camp, you obeying what the Lord said. You are not like some other congregation who say, when are we going to end this? Some start with an end in sight, but that's not what you did. You don't have an end in sight. Your end in sight is until everybody is evangelized, until everybody vanishes from the face of the world. So thanks for your consistency in supporting Hippo Valley Christian College and also Zimbabwe Christian College, Hippo Valley Christian Mission, and also Zimbabwe Christian College. By the way, I'm the chairman of the board of Zimbabwe Christian College. There's no way I can give talk about it.
So real quick, Zebby, Zebedee's a very busy man. Just run down through some of the things that you are responsible for. So you are the managing director of Hippo Valley Christian Mission in Zimbabwe. You are the chairman of the board of Zimbabwe Christian College, but you've got other responsibilities. What are some of those?
Okay, being the managing director of Hippo Valley Christian Mission means you are over the schools, 27 of them. You are over the clinics. We have 2 functional clinics. One is under construction. You are over the orphanage. We have 2 facilities. You are over the churches. Almost 33 congregations fall under there. Not only that, but I'm chairman of the board of schools. Okay, I'm managing director, but I'm also the chairman of the board of schools. And one unannounced task you may not hear from many. I'm the defender of the doctrine. I defend the doctrine of the Church of Christ Christian Church. As it goes, there is this is a turbulent time where young people want to be like that denomination. So we are standing firm to say that's not the doctrine. And also I'm the chairman of the board, and also I'm the chairman of the Ministers Fraternal in the Masvingo province. So I deal with some church issues not belonging to Hippo Valley Christian Mission, but church issues which arise within our province. I'm the chairman of that.
And a cattle rancher.
And I want to ask you a question. Do you ever wish that you got paid for any of these jobs?
I don't know who among you is satisfied with the pay that he gets. Huh?
I'm very satisfied. I'm very satisfied. Yes.
You are?
Yes.
1 out of 100.
Yeah.
Usually, as long as I am catered for with fuel and vehicle to go to these places, I thank the Lord very much, because He has blessed me beyond measure, that I have never gone to bed with hungry. I have never walked naked because I don't have clothing. God has blessed me. So I am appreciative. I would take more money if it came along. But for now, this is what I do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zebedee. Our our relationship, Zebedee, began in 1988. I know you arrived on campus on 87. Cheryl and I got married in November of 87 and then started the spring semester, so we arrived in January of 88 and quickly met you. And then it was, my brother had given me a fancy bicycle that I brought to KCC, and I saw how much you wanted that bike and ended up giving that to you, which you then shipped back. So there's a picture of the bike. I actually got to talk to Zebedee's son yesterday at graduation, and that's the bike that went from northern Indiana to Carter County to Zimbabwe, Africa. And Tilma was telling me that they rode that thing absolutely everywhere. He had to carry a chain with the bike because nobody in Zimbabwe had ever seen a bike like that before. I think it had 18 gears on it. And Tilma was saying that you could shift down the gears so that you could climb the hills. He said we could go places. So we just would ride and ride and ride and ride. And you talk about how God has a sense of humor. And I found that interesting yesterday because we had a little luncheon for Zebedee yesterday in honor of his doctorate. And I found out, unbeknownst to me, that I was declared the unofficial director of transportation. For Zebedee and the mission, and he slid a comment in there which I find quite humorous. He said, yeah, Scott gave me a bicycle back in 1988, and we need a car. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, but it was time. It was time for a vehicle. Bill and Anthony and I had the opportunity to go to Zimbabwe back in February, and while we were there, it became very clear how desperately the mission does in fact need another high-quality, reliable vehicle to get the mission to all of the places that the mission has to get to. 27 schools, clinics, churches. Daryl was there for 10 weeks. I'm going to get to all 27. No, you're going to get to 4. It's so far away. The roads are so bad. So, a bicycle just doesn't going to get it anymore. They need another vehicle. They need a truck. They need a good truck. After changing a tire 3 times, you need good tires, right? You need high ground clearance. It's just important that you have a good vehicle that the mission can rely on, can count on. And so, I got back. And unbeknownst to my, again, unofficial role of Director of Transportation, I had a big burden that we need to do something, that they need another vehicle over there. So when I got back, I called Al and I said, hey Al, look, I don't know what we're doing as a board, I don't know what we've decided and how directions are going to go, but I want to start a vehicle fund. And so I sent some money through the church to get it started, told them I'm going to do everything I can to kind of promote this idea that, hey, the mission needs another vehicle. So we brought this need to the congregation. We have been praying about this for some time. Last Sunday afternoon, we had a financial committee meeting, and so Station Camp Christian Church is going to do something more radical than we have ever done in the history of the 30 years that I've been here, and for some of you that have been here longer, perhaps in the church's existence. I'm going to ask Anthony and Bill to come forward if they would, please. Wrong direction here. So they need a vehicle. This is just an example. High ground clearance. They need some room to carry some people. They need some high ground clearance. They need to be able to get there. So as a congregation and as a financial committee, we met last week, and I threw out a challenge, and I said, guys, can we do something really, really radical? And so everybody was in unanimous agreement. The answer is yes. We want to do something really radical for you. And so the elders of Station Camp Christian Church, Bill and Anthony, want to present Hippo Valley Christian Mission with a check today for $30,000 to purchase a vehicle for the mission to be used as needed all the way across the world. You want to present the check? So that check to the mission there is for $30,000. The grand total for the vehicle is actually $32,100. So we had started the seed, and then through a YouTube got a little more support, and so Hippo Valley Christian Mission now has $32,100 to purchase a vehicle. Can you get some? The question is, can you get a couple of spare tires to have? So. Zebedee, do what you do. This man is a master negotiator. He will get the best vehicle for the mission that they can find, and again, because of the accountability with the board, we know that the money will go where it needs to go, and we know that the work that's being done over there is an incredible work. That people are coming to know Jesus because of what's being done over there. I'm excited about the opportunity to be part of that. I'm excited that Station Camp Christian Church is part of that. Look forward to many, many, many more years of partnership together as we work together to reach the world for Jesus Christ. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and being here with us today. I really appreciate it.
I hope this is my prayer that you as Station Camp Church of Christ Together Christian will send more groups to come and see. See, now you have a group that has come and seen, but I think it will be good if we spread into the congregation. Maybe you organize a team of how many can we take? 12. Now we have another vehicle. We can take 12 people. So if you are willing to come and see it, come see Zimbabwe. You have a stake in it. You have a stake in it. The invitation stands. Ladies and gentlemen, organize yourselves to come to Zimbabwe and see what your dollars have accomplished